Hi everyone, my name's Courtney. I write under the pen names Lyra Parish, and I'm one half of the USA Today best-selling duo Kennedy Fox, and it is Monday, which means it's another Q&A Monday. Before we get started, I wanted to let y'all know about a special deal that's going on at AppSumo right now. If you are a self-published author and you make teasers or countdown images, or if you run Facebook ads, they've got 100 photos from Deposit Photo for $39. I'm gonna put a link down below in the description so y'all can go and purchase that. We typically buy 200 to 300 every single year, so then we know that we are using images that we have the rights to use, because the last thing you want to do is make teasers or countdown images for photos that you don't have the rights to use. It could be very bad. I wanted to share that with you guys because it's only going to last for another week. This video is not sponsored by them, but I do have an affiliate link which I've put down below in the description box for you. But even if you don't use my affiliate link, it is absolutely worth it to buy those photos. It does sell out, so I thought that I would share that with you guys. If you're in my 10K group, I shared the link there. I've shared it on my Facebook page. I'll probably share it in my Instagram stories just because it's so beneficial for self-published authors to be able to get those images for so cheap, because typically they are not marked down like that. So you get images for less than 50 cents each, which is pretty awesome. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the questions that I've received. As I mentioned before, these questions are dated back to September, and we're gonna continue right along. If you see me looking off like this, it's because I am in my office. I've got the questions pulled up on the screen behind the camera, just so you know why I'm looking off to the side. And so this question comes from Dolores, and it says, do you have any references or tips for outlining a novella? I'm not a big outliner, but I have been thinking of experimenting with outlining a romance novella, but I can't find much about novellas. I have got the perfect resource for you. Hold on one second. I had to go get my props. But if you are trying to outline romance, I would recommend this book, Romancing the Beat. This is the cover. It's on Amazon for like 12 bucks, I think. This book is essentially this book, but broken down for romance. I would highly recommend it. If you check the back of this book, she basically goes through all of the beats for a novella that she wrote that was like 15,000 words, I believe. And so it's a very good way to kind of break it down if you're not used to writing romance. Save the Cat Writes a Novel is a great resource for any genre. It kind of breaks them all down for you. And then this one is a broken down version for romance. So I highly recommend both of these, and this one has a case study for a romance novella. So I hope that helps. So the next question comes from Kat, and it says, do you think the market is too saturated in 2020 to be able to be a self-published author? I've heard from so many people that my books are really good and I should publish them, but I have also been told that the market is just too full to do so and that there is no way for authors to find any readers now. Is that true? That's absolutely not true. I don't know who has discouraged you, but I would 100% argue against that, because back in 2014 when I published, I heard the same thing, that the market was too saturated. In 2016 when we launched Kennedy Fox, we were told, but the market is too saturated. And here we are in 2020 having record-breaking sales months. We will break our record as far as sales for the entire year for 2020 in the history of our brand. And so I don't believe that the market is too saturated. I think that you have to have a clear voice and that you have to be able to tell a good story and be competitive with your marketing to stand out. But I don't think that it's too full. There's enough room for everyone to be successful, because we're in an industry where people don't just read one book and then they're done for the rest of their life. It's not like selling a house. It's not like buying a car. Like, these are not very expensive purchases. People cycle through books in different genres and all of that all the time, and they're looking for their next best read. So no, I would have to disagree with that. I do have a video where I talked about publishing during a recession, and I still stand by pretty much everything that I said in that video. I'll post a link up above for you. I think the time is now. The longer you wait, the more people are going to continue self-publishing, and the larger this industry is going to grow. There are less people publishing right now than there will be 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 2 decades from now. So you have to think about it like that. Don't think about all the people who have already done it. Think about all the people who will do it. You have to fight through that fear, and you have to give it your all. And I think that if you do that, you also research your genre and the market, you can still be as successful in 2020 as the people who broke out 5 years ago. Oversaturation happens, but I don't think it's a reason to not self-publish. You just have to be different and you have to stand out, and I think there's room for anybody who wants to start today in this market. The next question comes from Chelsea, and it says, how do you plan and set out each character and their family and friends? And how do you decide what the character is going to be going through within the book? We write romance, And if you've ever read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, the overall theme of every single romance book is love conquers all. The question is, what genre are you writing? What is typical in that genre? I'm not saying to be a cookie cutter version of the books that are already out there, but there are specific elements in every single genre that's out there in the world. Convince me otherwise. Just being honest. Save the Cat Writes a Novel goes through that. You have to figure out what the theme stated in your book is. What is your character going to learn by the end of the novel? And that right there is the key point to figure out why that's so significant. Do they need to find love? Because maybe when they were a kid, they didn't feel it from their parents and they have this broken past and they've been in nothing but terrible relationships all of their life, so they don't feel worthy enough to have love. In a fantasy novel, why does the heroine try to save the day? Because she's been underestimated all of her life, because she lives in the shadows of her older sister, so she's trying to prove herself. I can go on and on with different genres, but you have to figure out what your stated theme is. What is the point of your character going through this journey and what will they learn? I think once you figure that part out, then it's really easy to make sure that your character is not one-dimensional. So start with the theme, the trope, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it with your book, and work from there. If you know what your character is going to learn at the end, why is that so significant? What happened to them where that's super important to them? For me, if I know what the character needs to learn, then I can figure out different key points that will make that ending so significant. You have to write relatable characters with some main reason and main goal as to why the stated theme is so important to them. So for us, we typically have a listing of characters. And we make out character sheets. We know what their strengths and weaknesses are. We know what their eye color is, how tall they are. We know stuff about their childhood. And of course, most of them have best friends. Who is their best friend? What do they look like? Where did they grow up? What was their childhood like? And though we may not use those characters or delve that deep, at least we know where their past is. But yeah, I hope that that helps a little bit. So the next question comes from Jessica, and it says, do you ever have any self-doubt in your writing? And if so, how do you overcome it? Absolutely. I don't know anyone who just sits behind their laptop and thinks that they're the most proficient and they are the best author in the entire world. Self-doubt is one of those things that happens during the entire writing process for me. It happens during the editing stage, and it even happens up to the day of release. It's like, wow, I know that I've put out the best book that I possibly can, but what if it really sucks? I am in a position where I have a writing partner who is honest and is not gonna be like, hey, this is great if it's not, and vice versa. And so I've got that other person to be like, what are you talking about? This chapter was really great. Or, you know, this could be a little stronger in this point, but overall it was a good chapter. I've got that positive reinforcement built into my co-writing experience, and I understand that not everyone has that. When I do experience bouts of self-doubt, the only thing that keeps me grounded is my why for why I started writing. Why am I spending my time on this project? Because I want to be a writer. Why is this project important to me? Because I want to make people happy with my words. I want to prove that love conquers all. I want to bring people on an adventure. I want to take people away from their terrible situations that we are living in this dumpster fire in 2020. There are reasons why I keep pushing forward. And I think that if you just take yourself out of it for a second, when you're beating yourself up and you're like, I suck, this book sucks, this paragraph sucks, this sentence sucks, I just want to throw it all away. If you just ask yourself, why am I doing this in the first place? It brings you back to why you started. And I always go back to my why. And really, seriously, I do experience self-doubt all the time, along with imposter syndrome. It's two things that I experience more often. And sure, people are like, oh, but you're so confident and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I still have issues. Doing all this stuff and knocking things off of my bucket list doesn't make those things go away. Self-doubt comes and goes, and you just kind of have to work through it. Overcoming it completely, I don't think it's possible, but pushing it away to the side, ask yourself why you're doing it. Write it down on a piece of paper. Put it in your office. Put it on the desktop of your computer to remember why. Yeah, I hope that that helps. The next question comes from Nicole, and it says, have you ever encountered an entitled author? Yes. And then she goes on to say, I have this issue. My boss's daughter is a writer. She hasn't published anything, but they won't take anything less than the big book deal. Okay, that's their decision. But when I said I wanted to self-publish, I got the look. Now every time I mention my own writing, I'm interrupted or my boss actually ignores me. I hope all good things happen, but I also know it's highly unlikely a first-time novelist receives a big advance. Recently, I've tried to keep my writing to myself at work so I don't bait the bull. Still, whenever I'm around my boss, has to bring up all these agents, authors, and publishers that my daughter is talking to. One, I want to self-publish. Why would I care about that right now? It feels very belittling. Any advice? Whoa. That was a lot to unpack. Wow. Okay, so first of all, this person hasn't published anything, so they're not an author. I said it because somebody has to. She's a writer trying to be traditionally published. She is not an author. Until her name is on a book and it's on a shelf or it's out there in the world where people can buy it, she is not an author. She is what we call a writer. One who would like to be an author. But this is the kind of stuff that makes me just a little bit ragey. Now, sorry, I'm looking down and rereading this because really? If it's your boss and you want to keep that relationship kind of professional, I would just give one-sided answers. Oh, that's great. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Sure. Yeah. Cool. Wow. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because when people have that type of mindset, they're not going to change their mind. There are people who still hate self-publishing today. If I showed people the millions of dollars we've made as Kennedy Fox, they would still roll their eyes at me and they would say, oh, well, with my first book, I can get an advance bigger than that. Sweetheart, that hardly ever happens. If she thinks she's a great writer, doesn't really matter, because if agents don't think you're a great writer or publishers don't think you're a great writer, she's gonna be like one of those who sends out 100 query letters to agents and gets nothing but rejections in return. And then most likely, if that happens to her, then guess who's gonna start talking about self-publishing? Because those people use self-publishing as a backup plan. Like, no. I think people like that are in for a rude awakening, because self-publishing is a legitimate way to publish books. It doesn't make you less than her. It doesn't make her better than you, because I know that the amount of money that I've made from self-publishing is a lot more than the amount of money my friends have made from traditional publishing. And that's real talk. That's me being 100% honest. You know what you should do? And she starts talking about all these amazing people and agents and all this money she's gonna make. You should be like, you know what? I found this self-published author on the internet who makes millions of dollars per year, and start name dropping people. Let's talk about Meredith Wild. She was self-published. She made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars and then got a traditionally published deal where she made even more millions. And there are so many authors that are like that. People like that, I don't have time for it. I know it's frustrating because you work with these people and they're just kind of like taking you down a notch. But I would just honestly keep it to myself until you can be like, guys, I released my first book and guess what? I made $10,000 the first month. I made $20,000. I made USA Today. I got an agent. Because it happens. We have an agent. We could write books for TridePub right now if we wanted to. Do we want to? No, we have no desire to do it. And just the whole belittling thing, like, that frustrates the hell out of me. I do not, like, it makes me so ragey for you. For real. I think that people like that are just uneducated and they don't understand what you can accomplish as a self-published author. And you're not gonna change their mind. Change the subject to something else, because it's not worth your mental health. It's not worth it. Don't engage. Entitled authors happen. Entitled writers, people who haven't even published a book yet, happen. Those are the people that I like to avoid, because those are the ones who, when they do get a little inkling of success, they act like assholes. And I don't like to be around people like that. I don't like to associate with people like that. And don't let them live in your mind rent-free. That's just taking up space. Stay in your lane. Worry about yourself, worry about being successful, and let her do her own thing, because what she does doesn't affect you and what you do doesn't affect her. And you're not in competition with her, but I would almost be willing to bet that over the lifetime of y'all publishing, if you continue with self-publishing, you've got the trifecta, an amazing story, a marketable cover, and an amazing blurb, you'll probably make more money than her. It's not a competition though. Like, you have to keep me updated on this, Nicole. Like, you have to let me know if she gets an agent and if that book gets traditionally published. published. The thing is we have little things on the internet called Publishers Marketplace, where when people get signed, we can go and look up and see how great their deal was if their agent decides to share that. And a lot do, because they want to be seen as someone who can get a lot of money for books. We might just need to look her up on Publishers Marketplace and see what her advance was. Might be a good deal, might be a very good deal, might be a great deal. Might be one where she gets $5,000 because she's a debut author and her book's really not that good, and she goes to like a little small press because they can't sell it to a big five. You never know. You just don't know. I'm wishing you all the luck. Please keep me updated with this because I feel like I'm invested now. You're on the right track. Don't worry about her. She can do her own thing. She can go and be traditionally published. Who cares? It's not a big deal. And you can be traditionally published too. And you can be self-published. That's the great thing about it, because you can do both. But she's unwilling to do both. So that's her loss, not yours. Don't worry about her. You got this. The next question comes from Cheryl, and it says, how did you and Brooke decide to write together? Me and Brooke met at a signing first. We both wrote romance. We were both in the same little community, but we were not friends. We were only acquaintances. We had joined a multi-level marketing company because we are both very gullible, and we believe that, you know, we're gonna be our own bosses. At that point, I was struggling with my writing. I was about to start over and trash my pen name and start with a new one, and then I was getting ready to quit, and she was feeling the same burnout, and she was getting ready to quit, and so we decided to create Kennedy Fox together and write under the name as a secret pen name. But literally, we were just acquaintances. We both wrote romance. We had seen each other at signings and chatted, saw each other online, and then we were both under the same team of this company. Big mistake. And then we both decided to leave to go back to writing because that was our real passion, and then we decided to do it together. We had never read each other's work. Still to this day, I've not read her books. She's not read mine. It seemed to work out. It was a shot in the dark, and somehow we hit the bullseye. So yeah, that's the story. I know, it's crazy. You know, the only good thing that came out of being a LuLaRoe person was meeting Brooke and us starting Kennedy Fox. The rest of it was a disaster, and I'm very anti-MLM because I got sucked into the lies. But that's a totally different story for another day. The next question comes from Katarina, and it says, you mentioned that each trope has specific elements. Can you please do a trope series explaining the elements of each trope? This is for romance, correct? I could probably do a trope series for romance. It'd be fairly easy. There's what, like 20 to 30 tropes? Yeah, I could probably add that to my list. It's actually a really good idea to talk about the different romance tropes. Love me some romance. Okay guys, I think that's gonna be the last question for our Q&A Mondays. I hope that you're really enjoying this series. As I mentioned before, if you have a question for me that you would like showcased on this little series, please check for the link down below. Also, don't forget about the deposit photo sale. Guys, $39 for 100 stock images. You cannot beat that price. You will not find it anywhere on the internet. I cannot stress this enough. And that's all I have. I hope you all have an amazing, incredible week. You accomplish all your goals and you write all the words, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye guys.